A few of you may have seen this car before. It was an S13 LS conversion that I did that got a little bit out of hand, and ended up with the motor and box out of my burnout ute. This combo ended up doing 2 seasons in the ute, and quite a few events in the Silvia itself. This thing is extremely fun to drive, but unfortunately I just never had time to take it out, and I got a decent offer on it, so I ended up selling it. But unfortunately this bottom end has seen better days, so as part of the sale I ended up including a brand new bottom end. I got Derek at Pollock Engines to build this for me. He's fitted a set of dished pistons, H-beam rods and a billet steel crank. So first of all we need to get this motor and box out of the Silvia. Scotty's made short work of getting all the motor disconnected and the gearbox out. Now we just have to lift the blower and manifold assembly off and we can get the motor out. have the motor out, we'll get started stripping that down so we can get the parts that we need for the new motor. And I'm also going to send the power glide off to Kane at Fat Transmissions to get him to fit this brand new Ultra Bell. So Scotty's gone and stripped this motor down, got both of the heads off. I can only see minimal wear to the cylinders and light scratching, but I still think the ringlands are gone in this thing. So I'll get him to strip the rest of the bottom end and see what these pistons are like. So he's got it stripped down to everything but the crank. The cam bearings got minimal wear, they're not terrible, but they have seen better days. As for the big end bearings, they're near on perfect. By the looks of it, one did get a little bit warm, but there's really no scoring that you can feel with your fingernail. I built this engine about 6 years ago. Originally it was just an NA motor, so I never gapped the rings for boost, and you'll see what happens when you don't. But the crankshaft's in really good condition, and I'll be able to reuse it in another project. You can see that most of the bearing shells are in good condition. This one here's got a bit of a heat spot on it. The rest aren't too bad, and finally this end one's got a heat spot on it as well, and that eventually would cause an issue. Now for the actual issue of why this engine was breathing as much as it was. I've cracked every single ringland on all 8 pistons. Not too bad considering this motor was still doing skids. Some are worse than others, but the only thing that was holding these little bits in was the actual cylinder walls themselves. I don't expect to find any more damage, but we'll get the crank out and check out those bearing shells as well. So he's got the crank out, and as expected there's barely any damage at all. A couple of heat marks, but pretty much perfect. And the crank's in good condition as well. I'll send that down and get that linished, and it'll be good to go on another engine. Now before I end the video, we'll have a quick look at the bottom end that's going in. As I said before, it's got a set of dished and fly cut pistons. The block has been honed and decked, and the compression ratio will end up about 9.5 to 1. So I'll flip it over and we'll have a look at the crank and rods. We've gone for a set of H-beam rods, a full billet crankshaft, and a full set of ARP bolts, which we'll be carrying out through the whole build. I'm also not going to reuse the old cam kit, just because it has seen quite a few seasons. So I ordered a new kit through VCM, which consists of double row springs, a new VCM 13 cam, LS7 lifters, single piece push rods, ARP cam bolts, double row timing chain, and a Melling high pressure oil pump. Also, the key to those bearings looking so good is this late model baffled sump. You can find these on the Series 2 VY and the VZ Commodores, and this sump's been modified to suit the Silvia K-frame. So I'm going to wrap this video up here, and in the next one we'll get all the new motor assembled. Once the motor's all together, we'll get the engine bay and the Silvia cleaned up, get the motor fitted, and then put it on the dyno to see what numbers it makes. If you enjoy these kind of videos, feel free to subscribe, as I'll be making plenty more conversion videos and hopefully more content of me taking my cars to events. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.